One of my favorite sayings is this: we do not rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our systems. And that is what routines are in your classroom. They are systems you're putting in place. And the purpose of the systems is to help your class run smoothly as possible and to help you get some of your time back. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 must-have routines in your classroom. 4 of them are routines you want your students to have, and 2 of them are routines that you want to develop so that way you can have a great teaching year. So the first routine you need to have for your students is this: how they enter the classroom. I cannot tell you how important this is. As far as routines go, this is the #1 routine, because how students come into the classroom, your first 5-10 minutes of class are the most important time in your class. If the students come in and they are anxious and they come in, they're loud and disruptive, that is how your entire class period is going to go. Because unless you get that under control, as soon as they walk in, you're going to find your entire class period trying to deal with that. So with that said, let me kind of let you know what I do when students first walk in. Now yours might be a little different. That is okay. But the most important thing is that you have a routine and you have some expectations and you hold kids to that routine. Because here's the thing about it is, what these routines do is they provide you with a sense of security, provide students with a sense of security. Students like predictability. And we, as truth may not sound like it, but we like predictability too. We like to know what to expect. And so when students walk into my classroom, I'm usually standing by the door, right? As they're walking in, I'm standing in a spot where I can view what's inside as well as what's going on inside. And when they walk in, I'm checking for 2 things. One is their energy, make sure they're not coming in crazy like. And the other thing is making sure, because we have a no phone electronic policy in our class, to make sure they don't have any earbuds in and so forth. And they walk in, and as they walk in, there's 2 things already happening in my classroom. One is I have a timer going. The timer is counting down how long they have to work on the first activity. I call this activity my warm-up. I spend about a week and a half at the beginning of the year going over all the warm-ups. I really hone in on this routine. I mean, we get it down. So about a week or so we spend on our warm-ups, what they're to do, what's expected when they first come into class. And so as they walk in, there's already a timer going, counting down how much longer they have for the warm-up. And then on the screen is the warm-up itself. It tells them what they have to do. And so students will come in, they'll put their backpacks down, they'll grab what they have to grab, they sit down, they start working. Usually, it does not take any longer than 1 minute from the time the bell rings to the time students are sitting down and working. Could you imagine that? Because if it normally takes you 10 minutes to get the kids all in and focus, you lost 10 minutes of time already. So the fact that we can start from the beginning, 1 minute into it, they're already working, that sets the stage for the rest of the class period. And then while they're working on the warm-up, here's a nice thing about this other routine here. This routine is I can take care of my housekeeping. The attendance, or the student needs a Band-Aid, or the office calling, or anything else like that. Because if I don't have that in place, then it just quickly gets out of hand. The second thing you want to really have down routine-wise, and that your students know, are transitions. So much time is lost in those transitions when you go from one activity to another activity. And it could be that when you go from one activity to another activity, the kids, of course, are, start maybe talking more or anything else, or it takes time for you to pass stuff out. And so you want to create some sort of routines regarding transitions. For my class, and once again, you're going to find out what works for you, but what works for me very well is back to that timer. Any kind of activity I have the timer going. That timer gives them a sense of urgency. Because when the timer goes, they know they cannot waste time on that transition. They know they cannot waste time starting the next activity. Because if they do, they're going to run out of time. And so right away, I have that timer going. And so one activity ends, the next one begins, timer goes up, and boom, they start. That's one thing I do for my transitions. The other thing I do for my transitions is if they actually need to have something in their hand, I will pass that out towards the end of the first activity. So for example, warm-ups. They come in, let's say we spend 8 minutes on warm-ups. So then after warm-ups, let's say we're going to move in to working on a packet. Towards the last 2 minutes of that warm-up, students are focused, they're working, I will walk around and pass out the packet to the students. That way when the timer goes off, we can just move right in to the packet. So at the end of the first activity, ready to set the stage for the next one to begin. Those are transitions. The third routine you want students to have down is how you're going to get their attention. Now there's so many different ways to do that. You can do a waterfall, you can go clap clap, you can do all different ways to get students' attention. But what I found more important than how you do it is holding kids to that standard. It's because if their goal is to get students' attention and you do the clap clap and then they don't do the clap clap back and you try to go forward, you lost it already. Right? Or if you do the waterfall and kids don't do the waterfall, you lost it already. So you need to create some sort of routine, some sort of accountability in there to make sure that when you need a kid's attention, you would get it. For mine, it's actually kind of boring. It's actually really simple. I would just say, everybody up here, please. And then what I'll do, I'll say, everybody up here, please. And then I will look at my watch and I'll count down 10 seconds. And if I don't have everybody's attention within 10 seconds, then I give myself a point. Those points we'll say for another video, but I give myself a point. And I'll say it again, everybody up here, please. And then once again, I'll look at my watch. And usually within everybody up here, I say 80% of the time I give them the first time, and then the rest of them I usually get the second time. Really doesn't go past 20 seconds where I try to get everybody's attention. But the key on that one is not necessarily what you choose to get their attention, but the fact that you hold them to it, that expectation, you hold them accountable to it until you really get everybody's attention. So the third thing you need is some sort of transition. And the fourth routine, and don't forget this one, is how you wrap up the class. How you end the class. Because if you're trying to send the message that this class is important, we work bell to bell, that we are, this class, the goal of it is to get the most out of it for you. You got to go bell to bell, and you got to have some sort of routine on how you're going to end the class. For me, probably the most important thing is I dismiss the class, not the bell. That's a key thing. And then you got to really figure out how long does it take students to pack up. Because if it's 10 minutes before the bell rings, you tell students to pack up, that is way too much time if it's for a standard pack up, right? So for my class, students put their backpack at the very front, and about 2 to 3 minutes before the bell rings, I'll do a quick announcement. Hey, this is what's going on. You guys did good, so forth. Grab your backpacks and go back to your seat. That is plenty of time, because what you don't want to have is a lot of free time at the end. Because what you're going to find, if you have a lot of free time at the end, unless it's planned, but if you just like off the cuff and like, hey, all right, there's a good chance things may go south really quickly. So you want to develop some sort of way of ending the class. And especially for me, what I usually like to do is I like to tell kids how they did that day. And so let's say we're doing notes that day before class is up, maybe like about 5 minutes before class is up, I'll have students count their points they earned. Then I will show them their grade that they got, so they get immediate feedback on the effort they put into that class that day. And then that takes me about 3 minutes. Then the last 2 minutes they put away stuff. So that's how I usually end my classes, by giving some feedback regarding the grade they did for that day, and then from there put away stuff. So those were 4 routines for your students, but probably the most important routines are what you do for yourself. And so here are 2 routines you want to get down for yourself, because if you can, oh my goodness, you're going to find yourself having the time you need to be the best version of yourself. And the first routine is lesson planning. Now, I created a couple of videos regarding lesson planning, goes in a little bit more detail, and I'll leave the links down below. One is like a 2-hour video. I mean, I went into details on it if you want to see exactly what I do. I'll put the link down below so you can check that out. There's another one as well. But the idea behind lesson plan is this, and I call this my plug and play system. If you're just creating lessons, trying to fill in time, you're taking lessons from everywhere, it'll get you by, but you're going to find yourself as not going smoothly as it should. There's no common theme through it all. But if you could create something I call a plug and play system, where you have like maybe some standard lessons that you go back to time and time again, changing out the material, but the same lessons, you're going to find yourself having the time needed to really enjoy your class. And so the plug and play system for me looks like this. I have like 5 or 6 lessons I keep going back to. I have my ed puzzles I keep doing, my notes, I have like an activity, I have some sort of review, I have maybe something I call like an escape room or breakout, and then I have a test. So like these are 6 things I keep going back to time and time again. I would switch out the material, switch out the information, but the actual process itself stays the same. So instead of me having to create a brand new lesson every 2 days, I have 6 lessons that I use time and time again. And if you can imagine that, oh my gosh, going from 80 lessons to 6, could you imagine what you do with that extra time? And the flip side of that one is grading. You want to get a routine down for grading. Maybe what you grade, and maybe how you grade, and possibly even when you grade. But the best advice I can advise you for grading is this: create a system. One thing maybe, if you're feeling so overwhelmed from grading, consider not grading everything. Well, what I mean by that is give students credit or no credit, but instead of actually looking in detail exactly what they did, just kind of maybe give them credit or no credit. Get back to my notes, for example. A standard period, students could earn about 20 points in a standard period, in a standard classroom, 50 minutes. And at the end of the class, students will actually count their points. So they are actually doing the grading themselves, right? And then what I might do is have a responsible student from the next class confirm the points that the previous class earned, right? They might just recount all the notes. And then when it comes time for me to put the grade in, it takes me about a minute, 2 minutes, just to kind of quickly go through the list and type the grades in. So the fact that I have this routine where students grade their own work, and I maybe have another responsible student confirm those points, that has cut down my grading from hours down to minutes. But that's a routine I put in place, once again, after several years, finally figuring this out. But if you can create some sort of routines regarding grading and some sort of routines regarding lesson planning, you finally will get the chance to take that burden off of your shoulders.